All right, welcome everybody. We are going to get started. I got to tell you, if I make it through this without any technical difficulties, it's going to be a miracle. So this might be the most complicated audio and video setup I've tried so far. I worked last week and tested to make sure that I could broadcast this space live on our app, and it looks like that's working. And about an hour ago, Justin asked me if I'd be sending this out over the video stream. And I said, well, you know what? I hadn't thought about that. Let me see if I can make that work. And it looks like it might be working. So we'll see. This broadcast is originating from an X space, broadcasted out to our app and 7 other video live streams. We'll see if it works. Now, a couple things before we get started. One, Josh, are you going to be my co-host? Justin, do you want to be a co-host too?
I can be, yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking. I should just turn controls over to you completely, whether I'm debating or not. Somebody else should be running the controls inside the space here because I got way too much going on. Can you do that?
Copy, yeah.
All right. So remember, when somebody is asking or answering a question, they should be the only mic open. Everybody else gets muted. All right. We'll figure that out. All right. So a couple things before we get started. One, I want to talk about what the hell's going on in our country right now, just for a minute, because it's getting weirder by the moment. And then two, I'll give a quick rundown of...
Rutherford?
Who is that?
That's TJ. We're going to burn the world down together, I thought, right?
I thought somebody had the controls here. I'm being heckled already.
First off, you're not a comedian.
I'll handle all these fuckers in here.
All right,
I'll
good.
fight.
Handle them. Handle them. I want bloodshed if people get out of control. All right, so...
All right, who do you want me to handle, you bald fuck? Tell me.
Josh, handle the guy that's supposed to be handling everybody. This thing's off the rails already. So I'll come back and we'll talk about Fight Club rules. First rule of Fight Club is you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. We all know that. But before we do, what the hell's going on in our country? I was just thinking about everything that happened here over the weekend. Elon Musk used to be the golden boy of the left because he made electric cars. Well, then he decided to buy X, and now the left hates him, and he's become a hardcore Republican. And then I think this is kind of ironic. The left seems to hate him. The left seems to hate X anymore because you're actually allowed to practice free speech. And yet, I was trying to remember if any president in my lifetime stopped being president before their term was up. Technically, I was about 5 or 6 months old when Kennedy was shot, so I guess that counts. Nixon, I think, right? Impeached and thrown out. But other than that, it's a pretty rare occurrence for a president to stop being the president. And our president just stopped being the president, but the only indication we have is a letter posted on X. We haven't seen him. We haven't heard from him. His staff found out about it because it was posted on X. The last time we saw him, he was coming down the steps of Air Force One, and he didn't look very good. Do we even really know he wrote the letter? There's some weird things about the letter. The way it was signed, the stationery, no presidential seal. His brother told CBS News that health absolutely was the deciding factor, and then he made this statement, selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time he has left. Is he terminal? And shouldn't we know about this? Who the hell's running the country right now? Who has the football? Oh, it's a very, very strange time indeed. Here is a letter from the White House physician. Today, this is from today. President Biden completed his 10th dose of Paxlovid this morning. His symptoms have almost resolved completely. His pulse, blood pressure, respiratory rate, and temperature remain absolutely normal. His oxygen saturation continues to be excellent on room air. His lungs remain clear. The president continues to perform all of his presidential duties. That's today. Then get your ass on the TV and tell us why you left the race. That seems pretty simple. His doctor claims he's healthy enough. Is this just another lie? What a crazy time. All right. The Fight Club. Here are the rules. Now, before I even tell you the rules, I want to tell you the purpose of this. It's not to prove anything is right or true or correct. In fact, the best debates in the world aren't going to prove anything, really. It's just a matter of who has a better argument for their opinions. So I don't care about proving something is wrong or right. What I'd love to do is have a forum where we can talk about difficult things that we disagree on without it devolving into a shouting match and people just screaming the same talking points over and over. And I'm guilty of all of these things. That's why I'm doing this. I'd like to have a format where we can actually get some information out, mostly opinions, because that's what almost all this stuff is anyway. But we can get it out in a manner where somebody else might learn something. And I might learn something. If I'm debating somebody and they ask me a really good question that I can't answer, probably tells me I don't know as much about this topic as I should. So that's why I set this up. It is really about the debate itself, not about each topic. Hopefully we'll learn some really good stuff about different topics. That'd be wonderful. But it's more about, can we figure out a way to talk to people that we disagree with in a way that we actually benefit from it and it doesn't just turn into a screaming match. So so here are the rules. We pick two people to debate, only two at a time. Anything more than that would be too complicated. You don't make statements or try to prove your point. You get 5 questions to ask the other person. You come up with any 5 questions you want to ask the other person. The other person then has 5 minutes to answer, and all mics are turned off except theirs, so nobody's screaming over each other. If you finish your answer, you still have 5 minutes. You can then make your points. When everybody's done, 5 questions each, when we're done, the audience gets to vote on a winner. And then the winner gets to pick the next debate topic and somebody else stands up to challenge the winner. So as a judge, because we're all going to be judges in this, somebody needs to at least attempt to answer the question. Many people will just ignore the question and start on their talking points. That's fine. We're not going to stop them. It's their 5 minutes. Nobody gets interrupted. But as a judge, you should know if they're not even attempting to answer the question, they should probably lose. But if you answer the question and then you want to make your points, go ahead. That's why I'm giving 5. Maybe an interesting way to do this. If not, we'll tweak things and we'll try something different. So I decided I would step up and be the first participant. I chose the topic. I have seen of people, and I see some of them are in this room right now, that have said we should abolish the Motor Carrier Act 1980 and go back to the way things were prior to that. I think that's a horrible idea, so I'll take the other side. The Motor Carrier Act needs to stay, and I even have a couple ways we can fix it and make it better. Not probably what most people are thinking. They're pretty simple, and it doesn't change much. It just gets rid of some stupid stuff that was left over. Unfortunately, I announced this over a week ago, and I don't have a challenger yet. So does anybody want to step up and be the other participant to debate the Motor Carrier Act of 1980? And if not, then what I will do is I will ask for a challenger, and they can pick the topic, and we'll just debate it. If it's something really stupid, I'm probably going to say no. Make it somewhat reasonable, and I will attempt to debate anything, even if I have no time to prepare. So Any volunteers to step up and debate the Motor Carrier Act? Just raise your hand if you want to. Huh. I don't see any. Imagine that. It's amazing how I've had so many people claim we should absolutely get rid of it, yet nobody wants to stand up and tell us why. All right. I see a hand up. Just Narc. Jump in here.
Sorry, wrong hand. That was the call hand. Sorry.
That's all right. So, all right, then I'll throw out, okay, if nobody accepts my challenge on I'll debate you on anything, I'm not sure what else I can do other than to see if we have two other people that want to step up and debate between themselves. Doesn't have to be me. I get it. If somebody doesn't want to debate me, that's all right. But if this idea is going to work at all, it might not. It might fall flat on its face this first attempt. We got to get some volunteers. So anybody want to debate me on some other topic? Just Narc, did you put your hand back up again, or is that still up?
No, but I will let you know that on my end, I can't do any of the little the little emojis, and I was putting my hand up. But I took it down immediately. So if I don't see it on my end, just FYI.
All right,
but it's probably an X thing, right?
It's
or a space thing.
I think it's CrowdStrike.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that was kind of a joke. Not really.
I
though.
know. I get it.
Really.
No, I know. That's right.
Could be CrowdStrike.
They see a massive truckers amassing,
Exactly.
and they are getting worried, so they are trying to take us out.
Yeah, they've heard about this fight club and they're worried. We might actually teach people something here. Although the whole thing's about to fall apart because I can't get a single volunteer. Huh. Well, anybody have any ideas?
I invited Rich to debate you.
I saw him in here and then he ducked out.
Well, that was me. That was my Rich troll account.
Oh.
I came in my real account because I figured this was a serious event.
This is a serious event. So, yeah, I thought I saw Rich, but I guess I didn't. So where are all those guys?
That was my troll.
Come on, I thought they'd be all
debate
over
Kevin on the fair tax.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, we could do the fair tax again this time with the rules. Because last time it really
please don't.
devolved into a screaming match and we were just shouting over each other. So now we could see how it works with the rules, maybe.
Yeah, Josh, you better do what you're supposed to do. And if you don't, I'm going to drive up to where you're at and
dude, I kicked
throw
out
a ham at
you. You know how hard that was?
I know. Listen, he's been a blabbermouth all day.
All right, hold on. We've got some hands. Maybe we have some ideas here. Teresa, jump in.
Oh, I'm JB Rhodes. I had to change my name back.
Oh.
I was trolling somebody with the Teresa thing.
You guys are killing me with these troll accounts. I can barely keep up with who's who around here. And then with all the troll accounts, I'm lost most of the time.
Kevin, I would be up for the job. We could discuss pay later of keeping you on task of who's a troll and what their name is for the day.
I need help with that. I could probably use like a whole team of administrators just to keep me straight on who's who.
I'm a troll and business owner, so I'm two different. So, I got a topic.
What do you want to debate about?
I want to debate about.
There's the real Don, by the way.
Wait, there's the real guy there. He's with us.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can debate him if you want. I'll find it entertaining.
Oh no, I can't debate because every time I debate, you guys just think I'm trolling.
No, this is a real debate.
No, this is the real thing, and we have rules, so there's no yelling over each other. You'll get the mic all to yourself, with nobody talking over you. The rules are, if you want to debate me about the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, because I'm pretty sure you want to see it come back, I'll take the other side. And you get to ask 5 questions of me. I get to ask 5 questions of you. After it, you get 5 minutes with the mic to yourself after I ask a question, and I'll let you ask the first question, and then I'll ask one. After you answer the question, You can spend the rest of your 5 minutes making points if you want. It's your 5 minutes. And at the end of all 5 questions each, we let the audience vote, and the winner gets to do the next debate and pick the next topic.
I'll debate you under one condition.
You don't get to set conditions. I already set them.
Oh, you don't want to debate then?
No, I absolutely want to debate. You just don't get to change the rules. The rules are already set. They're fair. They're as fair as they could be.
To you, they're fair, not to me, though.
What's your condition?
Tell Just Mark to stop trolling me already.
Just Mark or just Narc?
Don Ricardo,
Mark.
stop being a pussy.
Go ahead. Nope, if you wanted to hear debate, it's a very simple condition.
Kick him out of here, Josh. Get rid of him.
Okay.
Yeah, what? Come on, man.
I'll play
I'm not
along.
trolling in here. I changed my name for this deal because I wanted to hear this too.
I'll play along.
No.
I'll go one better. I'll tell everybody, stop trolling him. How's that?
How do you get Just
not
Narc
gonna
to just
happen.
keep his word though?
See, that I can't do.
You don't.
I did exactly
You're asking
what
for
you asked me to
unrealistic
do, and I
expectations.
went one better, but I can't control anybody else.
Yes, and I'll tell you what. I'll do you one better for the good of this community because I'm sure this should be interesting. Do you need me to step out, Ricardo? Because this is recorded, so I can
No,
listen to it at a later time.
Because you have other accounts, you're gonna step in and you're gonna listen anonymously.
That is true.
Rich,
Rich,
don't be a bitch.
Rich,
Come on.
You can't back out now. You said you had one criteria, and I met the criteria. Come on.
Fine, we'll debate then. We'll debate.
All right. It's on. So you get first question.
Okay, so the first question is, did the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, did it allow the displacement of American truck drivers?
No, that's an easy one. Now I have 5 minutes to ramble. No, of course it didn't
All right.
allow for it. That could have happened before.
You sure?
Hey,
Because
Rich,
his mic's
you can't
supposed
talk,
to be
Rich.
off.
You got to give him
all
5
right.
minutes.
Turn his mic off. That's how this works. And you're going to have to turn my mic off too, because I won't be able to stand it. I'll be screaming. So make sure everybody else's mic is off. Mute him. Come on, you're burning up my 5 minutes. All right. So, no, the Motor Carrier Act did not allow for the displacement of truck drivers. I'm assuming you're meaning by people who came from other countries. That's a whole different debate. We could have that debate too. I am all for plenty of legal immigration. In fact, I think we could handle more legal immigration than what we already allow, as long as we vet people. And if we vet people, and everybody's working under the same set of rules, and they came to this country illegally, they have every right to drive a truck just as the way I do. So I don't see that as the problem. I see the problem as horrible immigration laws that aren't written very well and aren't followed hardly at all. And has that caused a problem for truck drivers? Absolutely. It's caused a problem for everybody in less skilled labor. And truck driving, unfortunately, is less skilled labor. It just is. So, yeah, I see why people want to conflate the two, but they're two separate issues, and we could debate any of those issues. I see hands going up everywhere. You guys have to wait. We're in the middle of a debate. We're not going to call on anybody during the debate. We're going to go through our 5 questions back and forth. All right, so that is the end of my answer to the question. And since, oh, by the way, Josh, you either need to keep time.
You're at 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I was going to say you either need to keep time or you need to hire somebody to do it.
Yeah, I have a stopwatch going.
All right, good. So now I'll just talk a little bit. No, actually, I'm not. I'm just going to give my question. So here's my question to you. Explain to me what changed with the Motor Carrier Act of 1980.
So the Motor Carrier Act of 1980, what it changed was the barrier to business entry. What it did was it made it easier for anybody to get into the market as a motor carrier by taking off the restrictions that was there in the first place to protect the market from too much competition. Now, when you get a lot of people entering the market, what happens is it increases competition. And when competition increases, the freight rates, they drop. Now, with that happening, it also opened up the door for the displacement of a lot of workers. A lot of workers came here to the US, they obtained CDLs, they bought a truck, and they were able to obtain an MC authority. The problem is that they don't understand the market too well. And because when they get desperate, they tend to underbid everybody else. Some of them could even stay running their business at a loss. They'll sell their apartment, they'll sell their car, and they'll just live in their truck. And the only expenses they have is their cell phone bill, fuel, food, DEF, insurance, and maintenance. How do you compete with that? How do you compete with somebody who lives in a truck at the expense of the American truck driver? It has completely eroded the quality of our industry. It has completely eroded the collective power that we used to enjoy. All for what? To give the big box retail store a cheaper price? The Walmarts, the Targets, the Amazons, all of these companies are multi-billion-dollar corporations. They have the money to pay top rates. They have the money. But the problem is that the brokers started to lobby politicians in the 1970s. Ted Kennedy was a big proponent of the Motor Carrier Act. He lobbied for years to deregulate trucking because he and his brothers were all spoon-fed and privileged. They were the people who sacrificed the American working class person so that these big box retail stores and these multinational corporations can laugh at us while we're all struggling and competing with each other. They're laughing at us because now they have the pricing leverage. Prior to 1980, prior to regulation, these big box stores, retail stores had to pay what the motor carriers wanted. Now it's in reverse. The whole script has been flipped on the truck drivers and on the motor carriers. Now they're the ones with all the leverage, with all the pricing power. Thank you. I'm done.
Rich, you have a minute and a half left.
Well, Rich, you have to ask your question of me if you're done.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question for you is, if I am a motor carrier and I lease a truck from Penske or Ryder, and I put a driver in that driver's seat versus me hiring somebody who is a truck owner and they lease their truck to my authority and they put a driver in that seat. Two-part question. Who does that driver answer to? The owner of the truck or the motor carrier as the leasing of that truck?
Well, first off, you already broke the rules. You're not allowed to ask two-part questions. That's like asking two questions. You only get one question at a time. So rephrase your question with one question.
Okay, so my question is, if I'm a motor carrier and you are a truck owner and I lease your truck from you and there's somebody in that driver's seat, who does that driver answer to, the truck owner or the motor carrier?
In many cases, they're going to answer to both. And that's because mostly regulations that have created that situation, the motor carrier with authority will almost always have the liability and cargo insurance. It's not a rule, but it's almost always done that way. So then they have some responsibility, so they will set some standards for drivers. So both the owner of the truck and the driver need to answer to the fact is the driver qualified? Will he stay qualified? He is an employee of the truck owner. So the truck owner is responsible for paying him and paying his taxes and Social Security and Medicare and unemployment, workers' comp, and all those other things. So to answer your question, the driver in a situation like this could have to answer at times to both parties. Now, let me go back to your last answer, and you might be surprised. First off, it was very well said, and there's not a single statement in there that you made that I would debate. It's all true. It's all absolutely true. My question, when I get to it, is where's the problem? You just described every industry in the United States. Every industry allows easy entry. There's very, very few barriers to any business or any industry, virtually no government barriers whatsoever, maybe some licensing, which we also have. You've got to have a CDL. That's a government barrier. So there is a barrier, not much of one. I wouldn't mind seeing that barrier being a little higher, but that would be for everybody, company drivers, owner-operators, independents, carriers, everybody. But there are no other industries that have any government barriers. There are some industries that are more expensive to get into, but that's just economics. The government doesn't put any barriers up, which is exactly the way I want it. I won't debate any of your points. They're all true. But that's exactly the way I want it. That's called competition. That's what makes us all better. Does it drive prices down? Absolutely. That's what made this country so great. We had so much competition in business with virtually no government interference or barriers, and we built one of the greatest economies in the world. The more the government gets involved and the more rules and regulations we have, the worse that gets. So you can blame it on capitalism all you want, but it's crony capitalism and government regulation that have created most of the problems. It's the government that is allowing all of the drivers to come in here that you believe aren't qualified. That's the government issue. That's not a free market issue. If they're here, the free market's going to hire them. Government said they're here, they're allowed to be hired. So we're back to it's a regulation thing. So my question to you now is what you just described about trucking. I have two. I can't ask a two-part question. All right, let me rethink. All right, so I'll ask it this way because I still have a couple questions left. If we are going to financially regulate the trucking industry, which is what the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 did, would you then also be for financially regulating all industries the same way? We'll use the same method they use in the Motor Carrier Act. Should all industries be regulated that way? Why or why not? Go ahead.
No, I do not think that all industries should be regulated the way that trucking was regulated prior to 1980, because a lot of industries are not vital to national security the same way trucking is. Trucking is a vital part of the supply chain, which is a matter of national security. Now, the issue is that when you have such atrocious working conditions and substandard wages for truck drivers, to the point where now we have truck drivers who can't speak English driving our trucks across the US, and we have truck drivers with a shady history and record, that is a matter of national security. As a matter of fact, I think that you should have a clean record to drive a truck. You have to have a good record to have a TWIC card to haul drayage containers out of the ports. So we need to have a strong workforce in order to have a strong supply chain in terms of national security. And the drivers in the workforce also need to be respected, and they need to be well compensated for all their time that they're working. If not, then we as a country, we are compromising the health of our supply chain. And the drivers also need a collective voice so that they can have a seat at the table and be able to express their grievances with the system and the supply chain issues that we have. Because as of right now, we have a lot of executive officers and a lot of powerful people speaking on our behalf that don't really have our best interests. For example, Chris Spears, president of the ATA, constantly goes to Congress and the Senate, and he speaks on our behalf despite not being a truck driver, despite never having to drive a truck and being stuck at a warehouse for 12 or 15 hours or having to struggle to find truck parking. See, this is why it's important for truck drivers to have a voice and to have a seat at the table so that we can be able to represent ourselves adequately and, better yet, be able to actually negotiate good conditions and wages. Now, my question to you is, the leased owner operator, if they're leased to a motor carrier and they're under their insurance policy, does that leased owner operator answer to the truck or to the motor carrier?
Oh, well, hold on. I don't even understand the question. The leased owner operator, does he answer to the truck? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Because a
that
lot of
means.
people,
Well, wait, you
lot
got to
of
explain
people-
that to me. I don't know how you answer to a
I'll-
truck.
own the truck, then you're independent because, well, if that
You're rubber
truck
banding, Rich.
Yeah, you got to start over
Oh.
because I'm missing words here.
so a lot of then you're independent because if you decide not to drive that truck does not get driven. But when you're leased to somebody's authority, MC authority, you're under their insurance policy. And then they dictate whether or not you could haul for anybody else but them. So does the owner of the truck, do they answer to the motor carrier that they're using their truck to, or do they answer to themselves in the truck?
Oh, boy, you give me really easy questions. That's easy. As a business owner, I answer to both. The truck is part of my business. I'm going to run my business well and smart in the way I want to run it. But I always, in every business, have to answer to my customer. Right? They're the most important person. Without a customer, my business doesn't exist. So the answer again is both. I run my business the way I want because I get to, because I own the truck and I own the business, and I answer to whoever my customer happens to be at the moment. And if that's the carrier I'm leased to, then of course I'm going to answer to them. They're my customer. And the whole point of a business is to provide value to my customer. So there's my answer on that. Let me take the rest of the time and sum up where I think where we are on this. Very few of your statements, I don't have a problem with hardly any of them. They're all true. And I agree with almost every one of them. There's a couple I'll talk about here in a minute. But for the most part, we're in agreement that is the situation that we face. The difference is, I think it's perfectly fine. That's what a free market and competition is. Now, towards the end, you're starting to mix up employee drivers and businesses. And this is where all of your arguments and everybody else on your side seems to fall apart. Stop mixing up the two. They are two completely different things. You talked about drivers having a voice. Well, that has nothing whatsoever to do with the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. It didn't take away anybody's voice. Nothing changed. You could still write letters to your congressman. You could lobby. You could become a politician. Nobody's stopping you from having a voice. OIDA speaks just as much to the FMCSA and the DOT as the ATA does. Both groups are simply providing value to their customers. The ATA's customers are large carriers. Of course, they're going to push for rules that benefit large carriers. OIDA represents the other end of the market. They're going to push for rules that they believe benefit theirs. So throw out the whole idea. If you want a voice as a driver and you want to be in a collective, you can. Go get a union job. They already exist. So you're asking for something that already exists. All it takes is for somebody to step up and do it. If you don't have, or if you don't think drivers have a voice, why aren't you lobbying the government? Why don't you go to the listening sessions? Why don't you submit comments? All those methods for drivers to have a voice already exist. Use them, but nobody does. They're either too lazy or they just don't care enough, or it's easier to bitch about everything. I'm not sure. Here's our only real difference. You believe that because the trucking industry is mission critical for national safety, well, then so would every industry that supports us. So all the refineries, all the truck stops, all the truck shops, all the OEMs, the manufacturers, we can't do our job without them. So they are mission critical for national safety as well. So I'll ask you again. Do you think they should have the same financial control by the government? And then we could sit here all day long and list industries that, according to your definition, are necessary for national safety. That's why I don't want the government messing with them. They run better without the government involved. Describing the difference between socialism, which is what you're asking for, the government to set prices in business, or a free market, which is what I'm asking for. We agree on all the situations. You just want the government to have more control over the financial part of trucking, which is what the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 did away with. You want that brought back, but somehow you think trucking is so unique that it should be the only industry. And I say, if that's what you're pushing for, you should be pushing for every industry that touches trucking then at least, plus many, many more that we could claim are. What about if I decide that I want to make ammunition? Well, hell, the government's got to have ammunition to shoot people, so that must be a mission critical environment. So I guess the government now needs to step in and control quality and cost on anybody who produces weapons or ammunition. We could go on and on and on all day. And if we follow your logic, we will end up a socialistic economy. And I don't want to see that. I think we continue with the free market just the way we are. Financially deregulating trucking was the best thing that ever happened to it and our economy.
All right, Kevin, you're at time.
All right, I'm done. So how many questions have we asked so far? Josh, you keeping track? I think I
Yeah, we're at 3 on both ends.
Okay,
We
so
have
this
2
is my fourth question. I'm going to kind of go back to my last question. I asked you what changed in the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. You said they took away some barriers. Explain what changed financially from the Motor Carrier Act of 1980.
Can you say your question again? Because I didn't hear the first part.
Yeah. Earlier, I asked you what changed, and you said, well, the government took away some barriers, but specifically, what changed financially based on the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 being dissolved?
Well, according to the research that I've done, there were things called rate bureaus that set the rates for motor carrier on a given lane. So if there was already a motor carrier on that lane, somebody else could come in and underbid them. It was a protection policy. And I think that is what we need in our country is more protectionist policies. I think that you have the bad habit of, having this all or nothing way of thinking. It's either you deregulate it as much as possible, or it's either complete socialism. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the proper way to think about things or to view this industry. There, you could be in the middle. You could have a form of protectionist policies in place while also allowing for a moderate form of competition. For example, the Jones Act. It states that cargo being transported within the U.S. has to be shipped by an American shipping company manned by Americans from a ship made in the USA. Now, a lot of people view that as obstructionary and anti-competitive, but the reason behind that was they don't want a Chinese shipping company to transport freight from California to Hawaii. It was a matter of national security. Now, a lot of people complain that it makes it more expensive, but guess what? When you have a crew of Americans who have a standard of living that's higher than in most places around the world, that's what you got to pay to have Americans live a dignified life. So to go back to what your question was, after deregulation, the ICC, the Interstate Commerce Commission, was disbanded under the Clinton administration. And then they made laws to prevent any type of ICC like agency from coming back in place. So basically, they took away the protectionist policy that FDR implemented to protect our industry from what he called destructive competition. Now, if you guys don't know who FDR is, FDR was the only president here in the U.S. who won 4 times. Arguably the most popular president that we've ever had in this country to win 4 times. And the reason why he didn't win a 5th time was because he died. All right. So we do need a system of protection, a protectionist policy to protect ourselves from destructive competition. What we are seeing right now, when you see trucks not abiding by the FMCSA standards, a lot of them get put out of service. But they always find a loophole, though. They always find a loophole. And you also mentioned something that, these drivers, they can't speak English, so of course, it's a lack of regulation. You don't want the government to be in it. You don't want the government to be in our business, but it's a lack of regulation that allows drivers who are unqualified to be behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler. It states it in the safety book. It states that you have to be able to read and write in English to have a CDL, and yet it's not being enforced. It is not because of the government. It is a lack of regulation. Now, with that being said, I want to ask you a question. If the government is not going to be the referee, the standard, and the conditions of the rules we got to play by, then who would it be?
Okay. So who would it be? It would be first of all, let me clarify. I am not against regulation. Not at all. I just said I would be for more regulations on the CDL itself. What I'm against is financial regulation. Big difference. I'm all for tougher safety standards on vehicles. I'm all for harsher punishments when you break the rules. I'm all for a tougher CDL. I'm all for regulations. I don't have a problem with those. I just don't want financial regulations. And I'll go back to a couple. You mentioned the Jones Act. The Jones Act stops other countries from competing with us. We already have that in trucking. Canadians are not allowed to come across the border and then move freight within the United States. Neither are Mexicans. Those are the only 2 countries that we have a border with. And we stop that already. We stop other countries from unfairly competing in our freight market. They can bring freight from that country to us. They can take freight from our country back to them. They're not allowed to move it while they're here. Do they do it? Of course they do. Everybody breaks regulations. It's kind of my point. We need to stop writing so many regulations that we're not going to enforce. You mentioned the FMCSA. They have all kinds of regulations. They don't enforce them. What's the point? And why write more regulations when you already have regulations in place that people aren't following? Figure out how to write a better regulation and figure out how you're going to enforce it, or don't write it at all and let the free market enforce it. When it comes to money, I am all for the free market. The only judge of what anything should cost is the free market. There is no way in hell I want a bunch of unelected bureaucrats at the FMCSA setting our rates. Now, you didn't quite get the financial part of this right. You mentioned rate bureaus. You didn't mention the government. The government controlled the rates in trucking by controlling the competition, by controlling the supply side. The demand is just from the free market. The government controlled the supply side of trucking and would tell people, sorry, we're not giving you authority. Which leads me to my final question. We now know that even after all the trucking companies that have washed out and all the brokers that have washed out, we still have too many because the rates are too low. Based on what everybody is telling me, rates should be $4 a mile. You're telling me you can't afford to pay a driver enough today. You can't afford to maintain your truck. I'm telling you that's bullshit. I know drivers who are paid really well, and I know trucks who are maintained really well on today's rates. But if that's the case, and you want the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 to come back, who is going to decide which motor carriers and which brokers will have to lose their authority and go out of business on day one? Because that's the only way to make this work. The whole point is the government has to control the supply and the competition so rates go back up artificially, and then I guess there will be plenty of money and nobody will hire bad drivers anymore and nobody will run bad equipment anymore. Although, see, I was around in those days. There was some real junk on the road at the time. Just because those rates were that high does not mean anybody trained their drivers any better. In fact, back then, there was no training for drivers. There was no CDL. In Ohio, it was called a chauffeur's license, and it was a really simple written test. So if you think that somehow everything was safer back then because the government controlled the supply, it's not true. There were lots of dirt bag trucking companies and dirt bag drivers just like we have today. But here's the question. Who is going to decide, and how will they decide who has to lose their authority on day one?
Okay, thank you very much. So the one who has to decide who's
Hey,
business and who doesn't.
just really quickly, this is the last question, okay, Kevin, that you asked, and then Rich, your question will be the last.
Well, wait a minute. If he asked first, how does he get to be last too?
Or we're at question 4. You're right, Kevin. Apologies.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, so you mentioned crony capitalism, all right? And you mentioned also that who sets the standard, who chooses what carrier goes out of business and who stays in business, correct? I think that the Fair Labor Standard Act has already established that standard. So the Fair Labor Standard Act was a law implemented in 1935 by FDR the Great, and it sets a standard. And all of those companies and employers who were not able to meet the standard of the FLSA were put out of business. So the standard is already there. All right. The problem is that now we have this gray area called the leased owner operator independent contractor model. For those of you who are not well brushed on this, is when a motor carrier hires a truck owner as an independent contractor. But yet, the issue with that is it's because of insurance policies and because of e-log policies as well. That motor carrier restricts the independence of the leased owner operator to save themselves and to save their record and for insurance policy as well. Now, that's a gray area because, like you've said, they're your customer, right? The motor carrier is the lease owner operator's customer. But what you don't mention is that at what point does your customer become your employer. At what point does a customer who exerts monopsony power over the service provider becomes an employer? A lot of people argue that Uber is an employer of these Uber drivers because they exert monopsony power over these drivers. The same way in trucking, the carriers have complete control of how independent the lease owner operator can behave. Therefore, the motor carrier is a monopsonist, aka employer. Now, my question to you is, if the motor carrier restricts your ability to be independent, then how is the lease owner operator an independent contractor? Thank you.
Okay, well, first off, that was a great explanation, but you got it completely wrong. Based on today's rules, everything you just described is the definition of an independent contractor, no matter how much they may control their contractors. The IRS has decided that many, many times. There have been many cases. You can go back and look. I was privy to a lot of them because FedEx was one of their biggest targets, RPS before that. I followed those cases closely. There are very few carriers that exert as much control as FedEx. I have to paint my truck a very specific color if I want to contract to them. I have to wear very specific uniforms if I want to be contracted to them. I will be there hooked up to a trailer at a very specific time if I'm going to be contracted to them. Based on today's current independent contractor rules and laws, that is completely legal. So everything you said about this being illegal and them exerting too much control under today's rules is not true. Now, you may wish that that was true, but it's not. So I don't know how to answer that. When do they become an employee? Basically, based on all of the court rulings so far, as long as they own or have control of the equipment needed to do the job. So if they own the truck, they clearly qualify. If they lease the truck from a third party, they still qualify because they have control of that equipment while they're doing the job, not the carrier. That is the single biggest criteria for whether or not somebody is an independent contractor. Second criteria is, do they have the ability to either make or lose money based on their performance? Absolutely. If they run their business really smart, they could make a lot of money. If they run it poorly, they could go out of business. Those two criteria is what has been chosen out of the IRS 21 question test. So as of today, I know you don't like these rules, but independent contractors, the way they're being used in trucking is completely legal. The few cases where it's not, every once in a while the IRS cracks down on it. I think they're pretty lax, which gets me back to, why do we keep screaming for more regulations when we don't even enforce the current regulations we already have? So we're back to the same thing. I believe the independent contractor model is just fine. And under today's current laws, it works. Prior to deregulation, we still had independent contractors. The difference was we were allowed to trip lease, which I wish we could bring that back. Honestly, trip leasing was a good thing. Now, where does the control end? The control ends when I decide I don't like my customer anymore and I go find a new one. They don't control me. They only control me if I choose to sign a contract. And if I sign their contract, then I am bound by the contract. SiriusXM, I was an independent contractor. I signed a contract with them myself personally, not our company. I signed an independent agreement with them, and I broke one of the rules. I said something they didn't like. They got rid of me. They canceled my contract. Okay, great. System works just fine to me. I love competition. Competition makes us all better. That's better for everybody in the economy. When we see that the average large carrier spends $2.28 a mile to move freight, and I have independent contractors that move it for half that, that's good for our economy. It's really good for our economy. Who it's not good for is people who can't compete. then they want government protection to stay in business. I just think that's a huge mistake. Do I have a final question here, Josh?
You do, and you have a minute left.
Okay. So just to sum up, I don't disagree with most of your statements about where we are in trucking and wages and drivers and how easy it is and how driver quality has gone down and how safety has gone down. Most of safety has not gone down because of poor equipment, though. That is absolutely false. We have made huge improvements in safety. Our quality problem is a bunch of regulations that make it less than safe to drive. But we don't need to bring back financial regulations to make it safe again. I'm all for more safety regulations and tougher safety regulations and much, much tougher penalties. What's my final question for you? Should we eliminate the ability for an independent contractor to lease a truck to a carrier with authority, and why?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that we should eliminate the ability for a truck owner to lease their truck to a motor carrier, because what happens is that the motor carrier has taken advantage of that system. There are trucking companies right now who have 0 trucks and 0 truck drivers on their payroll. And with that being said, it's going to lead up to my next question, but I want to continue.
You don't get another question. We're done.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm done. All right. Well, yeah, I think that we should end the lease owner operator model because it's a loophole that has eroded. It was a loophole for the Fair Labor Standard Act, first of all. You know, the Fair Labor Standard Act, like I said before, was a standard for businesses who cannot comply with the FLSA. They were put out of business back in 1935. And all the businesses that could comply with the FLSA stayed afloat. But what the owner-operator model does, the lease owner-operator model does, it allows these businesses who cannot stay afloat financially if they had to abide by the FLSA, it allows them to stay afloat by circumventing labor laws by using the lease owner-operator model. Thank you.
All right. That is the end. I'm going to add a rule. We get 1 minute for a wrap up, both of us, and I'll go first. And I only did this because you just mentioned something that I wanted to comment on, but I'll give you the same chance. You get 1 minute to wrap up. You mentioned the fact that some carriers or trucking companies don't own any trucks and don't hire any truck drivers. Primarily, you're describing Landstar. FedEx would kind of fit into that for the most part. And if you want to check safety records, FedEx, one of the safest fleets on the road. Landstar's safety record is far better than most. Landstar's turnover record and FedEx's turnover record, way, way better than the industry average. Go check the numbers. They're there. They're easy to find. You have to check accidents per miles traveled, and you will find out those are 2 companies with better than average. FedEx has a way better than average safety record. So I am all for trucking companies that don't own trucks or hire drivers. That's my wrap up. Your turn.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up, all right? I'm going to start from A to Z, all right? The standards were set already. The FLSA set the standard to take companies, employers, bad employers out the game. All right. The issue is that how do you have, this is a rhetorical question, how do you have trucking companies like Landstar and FedEx who don't own a single truck and don't have a single truck driver on their payroll? You know, that to me sounds very preposterous. You know, if you have a trucking company, the rational thing to think is, okay, so you must have trucks and you must have truck drivers on your payroll. You see, they've used a system called the leased owner operator model to circumvent laws already established a long time ago. And that is what AB 5 in California was trying to clear up. That is what the PRO Act was
All
trying
right,
to
Rich,
clear
you
up
had time.
nationally.
You have time, brother.
Thanks.
All right, Josh, how are you going to run the voting here?
I'm just gonna run a poll here and put in the jumbotron. Everyone put a vote. How do you want me to frame the question, Kevin?
Make it really simple. Who won the debate? And one answer is Rich and one answer is Kevin. That's it. Nice and easy.
Copy. Give me a quick minute.
Perfect. While you're doing that, I see we've got some hands up. So I don't know who's who. Teresa, JB, jump in here. What do you got? Where's your hand still stuck up? Must be.
Yeah, their hands are stuck up. But there's RJ had his hand up. Milo's Ben had his hand up. We should let Milo go first. He had his hand up before anyone.
All right. Let me. You guys, instead of putting your hand up, request to speak makes it easier to find everybody. Milo, it looks like you're already a speaker. Jump in here.
Hey, how you doing? Good stuff so far. I just do you want me to just ask questions or give a preamble or how we?
Well, all we're doing is waiting to see who won. So just do whatever you want.
Oh, okay. I would like to just, based on the space, I think to have more interaction between the debaters. I would cut it down to 90 seconds. That's what they do in the presidential debate. I mean, it's like when you talk about books, all of it's front loaded, right? The first third of the book has all the information. The rest is the author's using too much room. He can't say what he wants to say concisely enough or something like that. I think it would be better if there was more back and forth. And so if I was to vote, I don't want to vote, but it was, I mean, consider you do it for a living. That the guy who was up against you, he did pretty good.
Let me say this. I was going to say it anyway. He did a hell of a job. Like I said, all of his statements were true. I don't disagree with his statements. He set up the scenario very well and described where we are today. The only debate is his answer is more socialistic and he wants government to set rates, and mine is more free market. I want government out of rate setting, and I want them to enforce the rules they've already have in place. But he did a hell of a job. Very, very well spoken.
Yeah, definitely. And if you put it that way, I'm with you. Keep the government out. But yeah, great job. Because I don't know about the baby.
Yeah, and as far as the time, we can play around with that and tweak it. It doesn't seem like, I think I ran into my 5-minute mark once. I want interaction, but I want it to be very, very controlled interaction like we had there. There was no speaking over each other. There was no screaming at each other. And if you notice, we didn't repeat things. That's
big.
Milo, sorry to interject here, but everyone, I put the poll in the jumbotron. If you can submit your vote, please.
If you're in here, please vote. That'll make this work. Rich was brave enough to step up, and he did a hell of a job. He really did. Thank you, Rich. It was awesome. And I am pleasantly surprised with the way things went. I think our first shot and a pretty difficult topic that it worked pretty well. I'll think about ways to tweak it. Maybe it's a 3-minute. 90 seconds. There's just too much we're going to be talking about some pretty in-depth topics, I hope at times, and 90 seconds now you're down to sound bites and talking points, and that's what I don't want to do. I don't want this to be sound bites and talking points. I want somebody to be able to speak long enough so that we get a real understanding of what they know about this topic.
Okay, maybe whatever 180. But so jumbotron, I don't really know how to do that. I'm pushing on what people call the purple pill, but it's not. I can't vote.
Above the space, click up there. Scroll up underneath Fight Club. You'll see Josh's post. Click on that, and you should be able to click on it.
Click on Josh or the 3 dots?
No, just above Josh. Like if you scroll up to the top of the space, you should see.
Oh, I had to scroll down an inch. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Just type
so
on.
Who won the debate? Just click over in the white off to the right, and you should be able to pull it up.
Okay. Perfect. It doesn't look good for Ricardo, though he made a great account of himself. Yeah.
Hey, no matter who wins in this, really, and really, I think what's going to happen is somebody is going to win based on who believes what. If people believe more in the free market, they're going to think I won. If they believe more in government being more involved in the financial side of trucking, they'll believe Rich won. But I have to say, for as far as the debate went, Rich did a hell of a job.
Yes, sir. I believe. Yeah, agreed.
Rich,
Just in my self-defense, I'm not advocating for socialism, right?
No, you are.
Socialism means
that's
no
a whole new debate,
socialism.
Rich.
Yeah, that's right.
Socialism means to take wealth
Debate's
away
over.
from the wealthy and give it to the poor. What I'm advocating is more protectionist policies.
No, you're going to
Protect the
take it.
American worker.
Now I'm going to talk over you because you decided to debate outside of the debate. You're going to take money away from the poor and give it to the rich. Because those are the only people who are going to be left with authority. Rich, it happened already. You used to have to pay $1 million to get trucking authority. A minimum of $1 million if you wanted to start a new trucking company because the government wouldn't issue authority. Poor people could not get into business. Only rich people could.
I'm going to give you an example. Malaysia.
No, you're not. We're done.
It's a country.
No, Rich, sorry. Sorry, we're done. Mute him. Take him off the speaker list.
Jesus.
Don't blow it now. We're not going to start arguing in between debates. It worked really well. Let's just stick to the rules.
And that's what I was going to say. I'm really impressed that Rich could actually stay within the rules of the debate, and he made some very good points. The only thing that I saw that he didn't do was answer your question about who decides who stays in business and who doesn't.
And
that's the only thing I didn't hear.
That might be why some people voted against him. I said you have to at least attempt to answer the question. And if you don't, then we're going to wonder, why don't you just answer that question? Because it's a big one. If you bring it back,
it is. People
have got to lose their business over this. What are you going to tell a family?
On both sides, brokerage and trucking.
We are 2 generations, and in some families, 3 generations away from this Motor Carrier Act. There are companies that have been in business for 3 generations, and they might have to go out of business if we brought it back.
Right.
I don't know who in the...
Right.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not going to debate that anymore either, because that debate's over. Has everybody voted?
Good debate.
Thank you.
Very good debate. I'm torn.
All right. Who else? All right. Hold on. I'm going to try to get some people in here. Tennessee Trucker, I just approved you as a speaker. Unmute yourself and jump in.
Yeah, you just spoke to Terry.
That was me. That was me, Kevin.
All right.
Your space is way off.
I told you I can't keep track of everybody. How about RJ? Has RJ had a chance to say anything yet? I don't think so. I approved him. RJ, unmute yourself and give us your comments.
I don't think RJ's on the stage anymore.
Oh, boy. Let me try this again. We've already talked to Milo. So, yeah, mine seems to be behind. As far as I can tell, nobody else wants to speak.
Yeah, I'm right. I've got a topic.
All right. So now I do see a new hand that just went up. Millennial Trucker. Hold on. Let me bring you in here. God, there's hands going up.
Terry. Oh, shit. My bad. Hot mic.
All right. Let me try this. Millennial
Are we allowed to comment on what y'all were talking about?
Yeah, I'm going to leave some time for comments so everybody gets a chance to vote. I'm just trying to figure out who I'm bringing in here. Millennial Trucker, I saw your hand up. I just sent you an invitation to speak. Jump in.
You know, with the liquor licenses in America, it's a similar scenario to like how you described with the authority thing and limits on it. In New York City, the liquor licenses have reached the limit that they allow, so you can't create a new liquor license anymore. You either have to buy a business that's closing, or you have to buy like a restaurant and take it over. You can't start a new liquor license. It's exactly how you just said. It's over $1 million just to get a liquor license. So if you want to open a restaurant and serve liquor there, you can't, unless you want to pay $1 million just for the license to do it.
Very good example. I actually have another example of that. The numbers aren't that big, but they might as well be. So I was, when we were traveling a lot full time in the RV, one of the things we would do when we got to a new town is I'd pull up one of my food apps and we would just pick the #1 rated restaurant in that area and we'd go try it. So I was in Key West and I pulled up the app. And at first I was really shocked at how few I could find. And then I was really shocked that the #1 restaurant on that app in Key West wasn't even a food truck. It was kind of a food cart. So I got down there and their food was excellent, no doubt about it. So I asked him, I said, what's the deal? And we just got talking about that whole business model. Key West, the reason I couldn't find a lot of restaurants was Key West wouldn't issue any more permits for trucks or trailers or carts at all. And so you had to go buy it from somebody who already had it. If you could get it from the government, it was like $100. It was just like a filing fee and some paperwork. This particular food truck had to pay $30,000 for their license because they had to buy it from somebody else. To me, there is no reason we need that kind of protectionism. None whatsoever. You let everybody into business. Now, should we have a lot of safety regulations on restaurants? Yeah, they're feeding people. They've been known to kill people. We should have some regulations. And we do. You know what? The government sucks at enforcing them the way they do most places. Most restaurants are filthy and can't pass a test, except they tell people when they're coming out to do an inspection. It's a horrible system. Fix the safety regulations and enforce them. I'm all for it. In restaurants, trucking, every industry. But there should be no financial regulations. We should not say, you can't open a restaurant because we think we already have too many. Well, if I open mine and it's good, maybe I'll put one of the bad ones out of business. That's the way we should be doing this in all industries. Who's next? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, basically, majority of the restaurants left in Manhattan, especially all the new ones opening up there, they're all part of a big corporation somewhere else. Even if they look like a small location, they're part of a big corporation because no one else can afford it.
Yeah, Rich has it completely backwards on this one. If you regulate financially who can get into the business, then supply and demand still kicks in. That's how powerful supply and demand is. And there will be such a demand to open a new restaurant or a new trucking company because there's very little competition that pretty soon somebody's going to be paying $1 million to buy somebody else's authority, just like it happened before. So the rich get richer and the poor get locked out. That's why we don't want barriers. Let the poorest person get into business if they can figure out how. I did. And it worked out pretty well for me, and I would say it worked out pretty well for the trucking industry, too. Millennial, thank you. All right. Josh, do we have some results?
Yeah. 31. There's 3 minutes left for the poll, but 31 votes. You have 87.1%, and Ricardo has 12.9%.
Wow. We got a bunch of free market freaks on this show. All right, so we are at the 1 minute 15 mark. So one of the questions I had about this format was how many debates would we get in a show? So here's my new rule. If a debate is completely over and voted on before the first hour is over, I'll allow us to start a second debate. If we go past that first hour mark before we get done, then we'll push the next debate till next week. We have plenty of time. I think this format might actually work. This may turn into a pretty cool show. So we don't have to blow it today. We don't have to do too much. I will take the next, we'll go to 1:30. It's just kind of a free-for-all. Anybody jump in, request to speak, whatever you want. But it looks like the debate will be over for today.
Kevin? Hello?
Oh, go ahead. Who's that?
It's Milo. I was going to put it as a debate, but we could just do it as a speed round. I have a series of questions
Sure.
I'd like to ask you. Okay, so you opened the show today talking about how messed up the government is and is Biden alive? Does he know he's not in the race and that kind of thing? And I'm going to touch on something that you disagreed with me on a few weeks ago, and it had to do with the differences between men and women, but though it's not quite the same topic, but
Okay.
I used the phrase pretty well known. It's called "all things remaining equal," and so the topic is generally it's the Secret Service, but specifically it's women guarding a male president. And so my first debate question was going to be all things remaining equal. If you'll entertain that, are men stronger than women? Basically, if you had a 20-year-old male and a 20-year-old female, same height, same weight, is one stronger than the other generally?
Well, we'd have to throw in one more caveat, and then I will agree with you. I'm going to end up agreeing with you on this. We have to agree to the fact that nobody has done any kind of resistance training. Because I can promise you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to throw that
That's
in.
all things.
Because if the women.
That's all things remaining equal. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Then yes, men are stronger than women.
Okay. And so
let me push back a little bit though, because I will agree with you. That's not the only criteria for being really good in the Secret Service. Very seldom is it going to come down to me beating somebody up.
Well, but I'm going somewhere with this, and I hear you. And the next question was going to be: are men generally bigger? This is all about guarding the president.
Yep, absolutely, they are.
And are they more aggressive? All things remaining equal.
No, I won't say that anymore. I would have had we not screwed with our biology so much, but I'm seeing an awful lot of soy boys who are not aggressive at all, and I'm seeing some women who will take your head off. So no, I wouldn't say that that's a legitimate statement anymore.
Okay, well, we disagree on that. I understand where you're coming from, but there's still a lot more actual men walking around than soy boys. So again, I am going someplace with this. And do you think men are more qualified to guard a male president than women? I'd love to hear what other people think on this, but go ahead.
And here's why. When it comes down to the final decision on this, I will agree with all of your everything being equal statements. I will agree with the statements. But what I don't like to do, I don't like to do anything by averages. And that's all you're doing. You're just saying, on average, men are bigger, stronger, more aggressive, all of those things. On average, you are correct. And I'll agree with them all. But I don't want average. For these kind of jobs, I want the best of the best. So what I want is really strong criteria that makes sense. This is what it takes to be able to be in the Secret Service and protect the president. And if it happens to be a woman, just one, who meets that criteria and is better than a male candidate, then I think she should be hired.
Okay, so I guess it's my fault. I wasn't specific enough. This was to guard President Trump. I should have said I did not say that. So now I guess I'll take if I could, a few seconds to pound it home that these women that were in that video of that horrific moment in Butler, I'm just going to be blunt, they're not as big, they're not as strong. They look, to me, in my opinion, they look fat, so they're not fit. Not dragging a 270, 80-pound male any kind of distance. They can't stop a bullet because they're so physically smaller. In that case, I say they're not qualified, and that's how I feel.
You just kind of agreed with me, and I would agree with you. Those particular women should never have been there, but that's not what I said. I said I don't care if you're male or female. We have criteria. And once we set the criteria, then I want the best of the best. And if that happens to be a woman, then hire her.
Yeah, that's not disputatious. I completely agree. I was just very specifically honing in on the Butler incident.
Here's what I could say. In general, we should see far more male Secret Service agents than females. But I would never want to say we can't have female Secret Service agents, or I won't say we shouldn't have female anything. If we set good criteria and people meet the criteria, I don't care what sex they are. I don't care what color they are. I don't care who they sleep with. I don't care what their religion is. We set criteria for a job. If you meet the criteria, we hire you. I don't know why that's so hard.
Yeah, no, we surfed a little bit away from the topic, but I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, if you're qualified and you're the best,
Yes.
then
we
yeah.
hire you.
Well, yeah, I used to just really quick. I used to run
one other
programs.
thing. One other thing I do want to throw in there. And for all of these jobs we're talking about, these jobs are in the United States. You have to be a citizen.
Yeah. Really?
Just thought I'd
I
throw
don't
that
need it.
in, just in case.
That's crazy talk.
I know.
So,
I know.
so I heard an
Wait,
Army.
why is that crazy talk?
No, I'm just a judge, tongue in cheek. Sorry.
That's sarcasm.
Yes, that's sarcasm. Because not because of. I heard an Army sniper, a retired guy on maybe Dan Bongino somewhere said, too much DEI gets you DIE. And I couldn't agree with it more.
Yeah.
And so I mean, that's the only other. I had another topic about concealed carry in a truck, but I'll yield back, and that's all I have.
So here's what you got to do, Milo. You got to step up and win a debate, and then you get to pick the topic.
Yeah. I have to get more organized. I just thought of that while you guys are talking that and immigration. I would love to have a debate about that.
So
I can't hear anybody.
Here's a rule I changed. Yeah, and I just changed it on the fly. Before, I was going to say the winner gets to choose the next topic, but they don't have to reveal what it is until they have a challenger. I did that because I thought it would be fun to have to debate something you weren't able to prepare for. But I realized that a lot of people are a little nervous about debating and they don't want to just step up. So here's what we're going to do. It looks like we'll probably get one debate a week, which is fine. It takes a little over an hour probably to get through most of these, and we'll just do another one next week. I will announce my topic for debate ahead of time. Again, I'm not sure what it's going to be. I might do a health topic just because I like health and there's lots of things we could debate there and I get to pick. So before we end this show, I'll choose my next debate topic and we'll go from there. And people will have a week to prepare for it if they want.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Liberal, we can hear you.
Yes, drop down and come back. Do what you normally do.
Hey, Kevin, before you get out of here, I would like to let everybody, make sure everybody understands and give a big round of applause to the co-host, Josh. Josh is the man. I really dearly, truly am glad that Josh is the co-host, and I think he should be the co-host of every single debate from here on out.
I also think he deserves a raise.
Yeah, do you drug test him, by the way?
No.
It should.
Well, yeah, but if we drug test him, what good's it going to do? You're allowed to be on drugs in this room. I don't care.
Oh, no, I'm not, sir. I'm a CDL holder.
Okay. Well, that's another matter.
Yeah.
I have no rules. If people want to use performance-enhancing drugs before they come in here, they can.
Yeah. Terry does. He uses Viagra before he comes in.
Hey, Kevin, I want to hear you debate Mac.
Sure.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
All he has to do is step up. That would be a really good one. I'm sure he saw my post. He comments on them all the time. He could have come in here to debate me on this one.
Probably gonna have to give each y'all 10 minutes when y'all do that.
In fact, I'll let. Here's what I'll do. Since I haven't chosen a debate topic, I will be willing to debate Mac next week on. He can pick the topic.
Oh, God, it's going to be on EGRs on Volvos.
So this is going to be a regular thing every week?
Every Monday. Yep.
At what, 2 o'clock?
That would be Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific.
Okay, very good.
Yep. As long as it works. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought today went pretty well.
It has.
Yeah. I thought it went really well.
Yeah, well, that's because you had the greatest co-host alive.
I'm pretty sure it was all due to the co-host. That's why I think he needs a raise.
The last question that I heard when you said that first and foremost, Secret Service agent should be an American citizen, and somebody, I don't know who it was, said that's crazy talk.
That was
Total
sarcasm. That was sarcasm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
you have to excuse Terry. He's a little old. He doesn't understand.
Glad we got that straight. Hey, we could make this really fun. I think there's a way now where we could figure out a way. There's a way we could take donations while we're doing this. I never take donations for anything. We've done lots and lots of projects over the years. We don't take donations. I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's money. But this could be fun. We could take donations and then winner takes the pot.
That's
Josh
not
just
fair,
woke
though,
up. You
because
said pot.
You do this for a living, Kevin. Kevin, you do podcasts for a living. That's not fair.
He's like, how many ounces?
Okay. Oh,
Now you're talking about
The
language.
papers come with that.
Did I just hear Rich jump in here and say something wasn't fair? Come on,
Yeah,
Rich.
Kevin, you do this for a living. You do podcasts. You have the setup. You have the mic. You have the technology for it. We don't. I'm driving right now. I'm using ear pods to debate you. I bet if I had a better
What does
mic,
that have to do with anything right now?
Well, no, I'll agree with him again. Everything he said is true. I do this for a living. I study all these things. That's exactly why I want it to be a competition. I know I'm going to win. Let's put some money on the table. Make it fun.
Yeah. Plus, nobody likes you, Rich. So that's why you lost.
Yeah, I mean, before this started, I came in here and told everybody to vote against you. So it's on.
Yeah.
But
We almost thought about voting for
fairness,
you to
wait
make
a
you
minute.
feel good about
Wait
yourself.
a minute. I
In
like
just
all
didn't
Rich.
do it.
fairness, Rich handled himself very well.
What are you guys talking about? I like Rich. I've always liked him.
Okay, see, Terry, that's sarcasm.
I
You
don't
hear
know.
that?
Kevin, Narc has some beef with me. I don't know what it is. I've never done anything to this dude, and he has some beef with me.
I don't get it.
Rich, just understand.
You called
Terry
me a
likes you
meanie.
now.
Rich, he's fucking with you, dude.
Yeah, I know. But Terry, listen, to go back to what you're saying, you said I didn't answer Kevin's question. I did. The standard
you
was
didn't.
already set. It was already set in 1935.
This
The
ain't
Fair Labor
1935.
Standard-
Welcome to
But the
today.
Fair Labor Standard Act is still a law today.
Hey.
And that is what sets the standard. And people who cannot
And that's
abide by the
that's who's-
FLSA will be put out of business.
Hey, Rich, then we don't need to bring back the Motor Carrier Act of 1980. You just made my argument. Let them
But
put all
the
these companies
issue
out of
is
business
that
then.
Carriers are circumventing the FLSA by using the lease owner operator model.
You're
Not
gonna
all
make-
of them are.
You're going to make my point again. Business will always find a way around regulations that are anti-competitive. They always will.
Yep.
Treating workers with dignity and respect is anti-competitive.
Cool. Hey, Rich, I want to hire
Rich,
you.
You can never,
Every driver that you get to
Rich,
come over to JB Roads, I'll give you $300.
Rich, you can
You want me to be a recruiter?
You can never ever
Yeah.
legislate morals. Forget it. You can't write enough laws to make somebody moral. They're either moral or they're not. More laws won't change that.
So Kevin, you're not going to be, you'll be on vacation next week.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Actually, two
Oh, it'll
more
be-
weeks. 2 more weeks. I'm taking off
Right.
the following Monday. Thank you. So the next debate is
Yeah.
actually 3 weeks from today. That
Damn,
gives
you're gonna
somebody
make me wait. Damn.
plenty of time to do all the research they want. So
Terry might pass away by then. Somebody can get
You
in
know,
your
that's
place.
really not cool to wish something like that on somebody.
It could happen.
As much as
We
I
all
don't
pass
like
away.
Terry.
That's
Boo-hoo, liberal Terry. He's mad now.
No, I'm not mad. I'm not a
A
fucking
meteor
liberal.
could strike the earth and kill us all. We missed Kevin Rutherford show.
Yeah, Big Rock 2024.
Yeah.
I had a friend, and first time he saw me on my motorcycle, that thing's going to kill you. His brother wrecked on his motorcycle that afternoon and died.
Okay. Coincidence.
Hey, can we have some more
Okay.
uplifting stories instead of all this depressing stuff? Come on.
Not when you got assholes
Yeah,
in here
Terry.
that are just
The hell,
assholes.
Terry, way to kill the room.
All right. Hey,
You
hey,
know-
Josh.
Hey, JB, I unblocked you. I think I'm going to go back and reblock you.
Hey, Josh.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm here.
I think my system is kind of locked up because I see the same 3 requests for speakers that I've been seeing the whole time. Is there somebody that wants to get in and say something?
I wish I can tell you. I lost my co-host spot This space has been really funky.
Yeah, it has. Let me try to make you a co-host again and see if you can, because I'm seeing the same three that I've always had. Nothing's changing.
I rescind Josh being the best co-host ever since he lost the co-host position.
Hey KR, remember your workaround last week? You tried a new tab on the same web browser and that kind of worked.
I'm not going to do that this time because we're actually over time. So I'm going to wrap this up instead. I just thought if there's somebody that you could see that had a comment, because I can't really tell who wants to do what anymore. So we're going to wrap this up. I consider it enough of a success that we're going to continue on with the idea. We are going to have a 2-week break, though. So it'll be 3 weeks from today. I will debate. If nobody shows up, I'll debate anybody on any topic. So we'll just see what happens. And if nobody shows up, I guess I'll throw out a topic and we'll do what we did today. And I'll just sit here until somebody finally agrees. So
I got an uplifting start. I got my bent carrot straightened out.
Well, see, we don't have to debate that anymore then. It's a good thing, too, because the foreskin debate the other day just about put me over the edge.
Yeah, right.
All right. So somebody should let Mac know that he's been requested to debate by me and others. We could debate whatever topic he wants to debate. Whatever it is, I'll debate it.
Maybe we can try starting off by keeping those Rhodes boys out of here at the beginning.
Oh, Lord. Nothing wrong with those Rhodes boys. I just don't understand it.
That's right. All right. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. And special thanks to Rich. Rich, you did a great job. I appreciate it. All good arguments. Oh, look at that. Nice. I like it. All right. We will, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Not here, but I'll be on the air tomorrow with the Power Hour. The rest of the week is a normal schedule, except I'm off on Friday. And then I'm off for, 12 or so days or something. And I need it. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the live show. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.